What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original programming that I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking Table for Three, the Show Stealers edition, with none other than AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, and Shane McMahon. Three men that have had many matches against each other. Shane McMahon and AJ Styles obviously having their most recent encounter at WrestleMania 33 last April. Kurt Angle and Shane, their infamous encounters from 2001, specifically the King of the Ring pay-per-view. Kurt Angle and AJ obviously have yet to clash, and I say yet because there's still a chance it could happen in WWE. And you're thinking to yourself, because I saw this online on tap for Table for Three a few weeks back when they were showing new commercials for the show, for upcoming episodes over WrestleMania weekend, and I'm thinking, it's interesting they're doing a Table for Three with those three, knowing that AJ and Angle have no history in WWE whatsoever. Would they go so far as to acknowledge TNA? Because how can you have a Show Stealers edition of the show without acknowledging their past matches in TNA? Now, I will say this. WWE, and you can't really say they have a ban clause on TNA, on saying the words TNA or Impact Wrestling. Maybe Impact, but definitely not TNA. They did mention TNA outright on the Raw after WrestleMania last month. So they have mentioned them before, let alone just once, granted, but, still, it hasn't been too commonplace on WWE programming in the last decade and a half that TNA has been around. But nonetheless, they mentioned TNA quite a bit on this show, much to my surprise. Now, on the network, they've mentioned TNA before. Bobby Roode and AJ. Again, how do you have a fucking ride-along with Bobby Roode and AJ Styles without mentioning TNA at least once? Or having a Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast with AJ Styles. How do you do that without mentioning TNA at least once? So they mention it there. They mentioned it on Ride Along. They mentioned TNA here. Not only did they mention TNA, it was literally one of the first things that Kurt Angle said. He remembered his matches with AJ from like 10 years ago in TNA, like 2008. And not only that, but they showed footage of their match from their pay-per-view matches in TNA. Which is insane to me, from Hardcore, or just, I think at that point it was just Hard Justice, 2008, with the little GWN, the Global Wrestling Network logo in the corner. That is unreal to me. So this episode is really newsworthy for that. We'll break it down here in a second, but it is worth pointing out right out of the gate that, wow, like they not only mentioned TNA, but like they discussed their matches in TNA, and they showed the fucking footage. You hear commentary, you hear Don West on commentary on a WWE Network show. That blew my mind. So anyway, Angle mentions their matches from TNA with AJ Styles. He said he was surprised to see AJ in WWE and doing so well. Shane said he loved their WrestleMania match with him and AJ back at WrestleMania 33. I did too. I was there. I thought they stole the show that night in Orlando. Shane said that he got their match to go on first. It was his idea to have that open the event, because he thought if they weren't going on last, they might as well go on first, and that could not be any more true. If you're not going to be the main event, you might as well be the opener, because the crowd will not be any hotter than they are for that matchup. And Shane also said he also admitted to getting them more time for their match. They ended up getting around 25 minutes. They wanted 30, but they settled for 25, which is why Shane had to like run down the ramp for his entrance, because they only had 25 minutes, and the longer he spent on the entrance, the less time they would have for the actual match. So anyway, we see footage from the AJ Angle match from Hard Justice, the TNA pay-per-view in 2008, with, as I had said, the GWN logo in the corner. They talk about the six-sided ring. Shane said, spectacular. He said that he watched it. So what, does Shane have a GWN subscription or something? Or did he watch it on YouTube? Like, I'm fascinated by this. But he said it was a spectacular match, good build-up, good story. It was a last man standing match. I think it was right smack dab in the middle of the AJ Angle feud. That was right around the time that I started watching TNA. I started watching TNA in, I think around that same month, August of 2008. I remember an episode that I watched where AJ took Angle's gold medals. And I know they obviously had many more matches after that in 2009 and 2010 and 2013 and 2012 and, right before AJ left in 2000 and I think at the onset of 2014. Anyway, Styles said it was great. He remembered the DDT off the top rope in that match. And then Angle and Shane delve into their King of the Ring 2001 encounter, which I don't know where I've heard them talking about this before. Maybe Shane talked about it on that podcast with Mick Foley. I don't remember. I know I've heard them talking about this before. maybe it was Kurt on Stone Cold's podcast, like the one on Podcast One. I don't remember, but it was something along those lines. Because a lot of the stuff they mentioned here, I know I've heard before. Because he was talking about how both matches, the King of the Ring match and the match that AJ and Angle had in TNA, they both featured floor suplexes. Suplexes on the ramp. It was in the King of the Ring match that Kurt Angle popped his tailbone on one of those suplexes. They went through the glass panels anyway. They didn't want to go through it at first, but they ended up going through the glass panels and ended up doing the spot and ended up becoming one of the most memorable spots in WWE history. Shane admitted that his wife was crying afterwards. His dad was furious. Vince McMahon was furious they did the spot because he thought Shane might get hurt. Shane said they needed to have in order to have a good match, you need to have a good story. You need to be able to mesh, and Angle and Shane meshed on that night. Kurt asks Shane and AJ, what do you guys do to stay in shape at this point in your careers? And Shane says he chases his kids around the house to stay in shape, where AJ says, you just got to listen to your body. I do DDP yoga, all this other stuff. Angle says he can't really do yoga anymore, but he does do stretching. Kurt Angle said that I had a little too much intensity when I wrestled, admittedly, when it comes to his matches, but he talks about his kids and them growing up, and AJ's kids are around the same age. He had all boys and one girl, AJ did. He said girls are so much better than boys in terms of raising them, and girls they ask more questions and they're more intuitive and all this other stuff, and I'm a guy and I could probably admit that we guys are indeed dumb. So if you're a guy and you don't admit to that, then therein lies my point. Anyway, the next thing they talk about is Shane coming back to WWE. And really not for the only reason, but one of the big reasons that Shane wanted to come back one day prior to returning in 2016 was for his boys to see him wrestle. Because I guess his kids were way too young or weren't even in this world at that point where Shane was wrestling back in 2009 and prior to that. So he came back so his kids could see him wrestle. He got the call from Vince for WrestleMania 32. Undertaker, Mania 32, Hell in a Cell, are you in? Shane said yes. Right place, right time, right scenario. And he admits it was a big decision to come back, but a life highlight was talking with his kids beforehand, before he went out for his entrance, prior to that match in Dallas against The Undertaker. He told his kids, if you guys want to go down to ringside, you're going to have to come down to the ramp with me and do my whole entrance with me, which was super, super cool. You could see that it meant a lot to Shane to see his kids make his WrestleMania entrance with him, which was pretty cool. Shane admits to chuckling to himself when they're walking down the entranceway, because, just to see his kids really embracing the audience. They obviously had never been in front of that many people before in their lives, but to do the whole entrance and the whole Shane stick and all that other stuff, he loves seeing that as a dad, which was really cool. And he also told them, don't jump over this barricade. I know you guys got a lot of energy. Do not jump over this barricade no matter what tonight or any other night. Angle and Shane agree that AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the world today. And honestly, it's hard to disagree. I know Kenny Omega and Okada are right up there, if not ahead of him, but AJ's got to be top 3. I mean, no one thought he would come to WWE. I mean, obviously, he's always had it in him to become WWE champion, but no one ever really thought the company would, ride with him as their top-tier guy in the SmackDown brand, Raw brand, whatever. And they have so far. They recognize his talent. They recognize he's one of the best in the world and is a big-time player in their company. So, again, if you don't agree, and it's all subjective, that AJ is number 1 on that list, the best wrestlers in the world, he's surely got to be up there. And not only is he one of the best today, but one of the reasons he is the best today is because he continues to learn. Even at 40 years old, 41 years old, AJ continues to kill it and learn in the business. They talk about Kurt Angle's meteoric rise in WWE. Angle thought that he would be cheered when they were in Pittsburgh early on in his run in the company. And obviously, he was pretty sad when he got booed. He didn't know why he was getting booed. He's an Olympic gold medalist. Why would I be booed? It's my hometown. And obviously, when you shove it down people's throats that you're better than them, you're ergo going to get booed. So that's exactly what happened, and Kurt Angle later embraced that character and became one of the best heels in the business. Not only for that time period, but of all time. So anyway, he admits to loving being a heel so he can make an ass out of himself and do all the comedy shit. And he said he wished he could have spent more time as a babyface, but he did love his heel run a lot when he was in WWE. Kurt Angle said, I always work better as a heel. Styles first, he said he enjoys being a babyface because it's more along the lines of who he is. He likes taking pictures with kids and stuff. Shane says he likes the babyface stuff too, but he likes being a heel even more. knowing that it's going to blow up in your face at some point and that you got to pay it forward and it's going to lead to a bigger story. Even if the heel wins, it's going to build to something better, like, an Infinity War. Spoiler alert about Infinity War without any context. But anyway, they said they love reconnecting, and they joke about a potential triple threat match down the road, which honestly would not be too bad. But a Shane-Kurt match in 2018, I don't know if I'm really up for that. But with AJ involved, it could be a gem. Who knows? But anyway, I thought this was a great episode of Table for Three, not only because of the DNA footage, that was really the icing on the cake and what really made the show newsworthy, but just overall I thought it was a great show. They have a great camaraderie. AJ is super likable, Kurt Angle's great, Shane is great. I think this might be Shane's debut on Table for Three. I know Kurt had a Table for Three, I think with Edge and Christian, about a year or two ago, at least I think over WrestleMania weekend last year, and then AJ did one earlier this year. Might have been early last year, I don't remember, with Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels, which was cool. Actually, I don't think it was that long ago, because I remember talking about it here on the show. Anyway, I thought this one was really, really cool. Got to relive the history between Angle and AJ, AJ and Shane, Shane and Kurt. Thought it was great, so definitely check it out on the WWE Network. It is Table for Three, the Show Stealers episode that aired last week after Raw. So anyway, guys, thank you for checking out the episode. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. I will be back next Monday with another all-new installment in the WWE Network and Chill series. Until then, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.